Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm here again with lecture number 2 of our subject, that is popular fiction, and the topic of today's discussion is major characteristics of popular fiction, literary fiction versus popular fiction. So let's start our lecture. Here we have lecture outline. In this lecture I'll discuss major characteristics of popular fiction, literary fiction versus popular fiction. Then there are conclusions. There is conclusion and then references. Okay, we'll start with studying major characteristics of popular fiction. In my previous lecture I have told you people what a popular fiction is, its definitions. We have learned and studied about the term popular, and then we have discussed what a fiction is, and we have read about the exact definition of popular fiction. In this lecture we will move ahead and we will discuss the major characteristics and literary fiction versus popular fiction. We will look into the difference between both, and we will also discuss is there any similarity between the literary fiction and the popular fiction. All right, so let's move on. Yes, here is a list of different characteristics and especially the major characteristics of popular fiction. Number one, popular fiction as opposite of literature. We will look into the details how popular fiction is opposite of literature. That is one of the characteristics of popular fiction. Number two, popular fiction, a combination of conventions and inventions. Yes, we will discuss how popular fiction is a combination of both these phenomena. Yes, popular fiction makes use of the literary formula, and what this formula is we will look into the detail. Okay, the relationship between popular fiction and popular culture. So there is a relationship between popular fiction and popular culture, so we will discuss it in detail. First we have popular fiction as opposite of literature. Yes, how it is opposite of literature. If we before going into the detail, I would tell you people that in general terms every piece of writing is called literature, and but there is a difference between the literature that we study as our subjects in MA courses and BS courses. And what that difference is, that literature is particularly written by the famous and the well-known, internationally recognized novelists, poets and dramatists, and they had been known since centuries. All right, they are bestsellers, they are well known authors. But when we talk about popular fiction, it is something that is reader oriented, that the readers had liked it and now it has become popular. So popular fiction is now also being studied in academics as a separate subject. So it is opposite of the literature that we had been studied since decades. So it is different from that, especially in academics. So how it is different, how it is opposite of literature? Okay, let's see. Gelder considers popular fiction to be the opposite of literature. Gelder stressed his usage of literature instead of literature. Just focus on this difference in the spelling of L. Here we have a capitalized L, and here we have the small case letter of L, that is at the beginning of this word literature. He stressed that by explaining that the latter is a general field of writing. This literature, when we talk about this literature, it can be any piece of writing. For instance, if you talk about any text of the chemistry subject, any text of biology, any text of physics, so it will be also called as literature, but literature of this sense, that is starting with small case letter, this one. Okay, but when we talk about the literature particularly for aesthetic purposes, having the aesthetic appeal, so it is this kind of literature that begins with a small capital letter. Yes, while the former means quality literary works written by such writers as George Eliot, Henry James, James Joyce, D.H. Lawrence, Flannery O'Connor, Vladimir Nabokov, Tobias Wolff, and so on. So, this literature is the literature that we had been studying since decades, and it is a part of our academics in which we study the different subjects of novels, poetry, and drama. So, this literature it is different. All right. Yes. So, how we relate it? That it is the literature, this literature, it is written by these heads, means these well-known writers, these well-known novelists, these well-known dramatists. All right, so that is what we call as pure literature. All right. On the other hand, popular fiction is opposite of that. Popular fiction is not written by such well-known authors, although their authors are also acclaimed. They are recognized internationally, but with the passage of time, because of the readers interest in their works, that they became popular. So that is what we call as popular fiction. Yes, popular fiction, a combination of conventions and inventions. Before going into the detail, I would like to tell you people these two terms, that is conventions and inventions. Conventions are related to the tradition, something that is already in use, that belongs to your ancestor, that had been in use since ages. For example, the traditions, the customs, the values that had been in use, or that had been used and practiced by the people of the ancient time, they are called as conventions. On the other hand, if we consider the inventions, invention is something that is created, that is something new that you add, or you change, you bring some change into already existing things. This is what we call inventions. So we can say that popular fiction is a combination of conventions and inventions. In the other words, conventions means the literature that was produced previously, having some elements of that literature, and also adding some new elements of the literature into the contemporary literature. All right, so this is the combination which also contains conventions as well as inventions. So this is what we call as popular fiction. So that is the characteristics of popular fiction, which makes popular fiction different from literary fiction. All right, according to Cavalti, conventions are elements which are usually quite specific to a particular culture and period and do not mean the same outside this specific context. Yes, conventions are such elements which are specific to particular cultures. For example, if some traditions, some values are followed and they are practiced in our culture, so that is a part of the conventions. All right. So what traditions and customs they are practiced here in Pakistan, they may not be practiced in other part of the world or in other part of the Pakistan as well. The traditions of different values, different families, they are being practiced in Pakistan, and particularly in Multan, they may not be practiced somewhere else. So this is what we call as conventions. Alright, stereotyped characters, accepted ideas, commonly known metaphors, even favorite plot are examples of conventions. Yes, stereotyped characters. The characters that had been accepted previously, means the characters who had been used by the writers in their writings. For instance, yes, for instance, if the writers of 15th and 16th century, they talked about the kings, so talking about kings on such perspectives, on such patterns that had been used, that had been presented by the writers of the 15th and the 16th century, so we will call them stereotyped characters, means already had been in use. Accepted ideas, if we talk about some values, for instance some moral values which are acceptable for a particular society, so those ideas will be called as accepted ideas. Commonly known metaphors, like if you resemble, or if you compare two different things, like saying that my brother is a lion, which is a common metaphor that is used in Pakistan, so they are the example of. And even favorite plot, means the plot having, like, specific beginning, there is a rising action and there is a climax, there is a falling action. So this type of plot, that is favorite, you can say stereotype, already in use, they are the examples of conventions, means previously used. So popular fiction is combination of conventions as well as inventions, meaning by They also take examples from the past texts, past literature, and also add something new from themselves. That is what we call as invention. So it is not just a composition of only conventions, but also contains inventions as well. Inventions, on the other hand, are elements which are uniquely imagined by creators. Means the these are the such elements, such inventions which are unique, which are not previously used, previously known, previously practiced. These are not such things. Only those things which are imagined by the creator. Such inventional elements could be either new kinds of character ideas, innovative plot, or creative usages of language. If I talk about 100 years of solitude, so there are different kinds of ideas, innovative plot, in which you just move back into the history and then you come forward again into the present. So there is continuous moving of there is a continuous, you can say, the temporal movement of the characters. Creative usage of language that is used differently, having new words, having new ideas. All right, so new kinds of character ideas means the character who is not conventional, rather character who is new. For instance, if you talk about sci-fi movies, so if you want, you watch some mutants, you watch such characters who you believe they do not exist, but they are just the creation of the mind of the writer. So they are imaginary or new kinds of characters. All right, both conventions and inventions play significant roles in a cultural context. While conventions represent the shared values of a society, invention introduce new concepts to the society. They both are there. For instance, conventions, they represent the society, inventions add something new to the society. All right, so they introduce new concepts. So conventions and inventions go side by side when we talk about popular fiction. Conventions maintain the traditions, customs, and stability of a defined culture. The culture having specific traditions, customs, they are just maintained by the convention. For instance, if you have certain values in your culture, so you will keep on practicing, keep on using. So this is how you maintain your culture. Inventions bring changes, new values. They bring something new which do not exist already. This explains the popularity of popular fiction, since readers could find in these novels a piece of their lives, uh, beliefs, and interests. Such findings bring them satisfaction and emotional security. That is why popular fictions are famous, because they have something new to present. People do not get bored watching, reading such texts and novels. So why? Because there is something new. All right, so they find something in their lives, a piece of their lives, beliefs, and interest in it as well. Such findings bring them satisfaction and emotional security. So such kind of findings bring them satisfaction. Like if they had imagined some kind of situation in their childhood or in their adulthood, for instance, so when they will find it having imagined in front of them, in imagination that has become reality in front of them, so they would like it, they would have their satisfaction and emotional security. And if they want some kind of emotional support and they feel that some character in the novel, in the story, is getting such kind of emotional security, they will feel satisfied. At the same time, inventions provide them with new information about the world and feeling of escape from the ordinary life around them. So inventions will help them find new information that yes, this can be something new. If we talk about Marvel movies, sci-fi movies, so this is something new which you just keep on watching the things with admiration, with awe, that wow, this is something amazing. So this is what you call such phenomena. All right, and feeling of escape from the ordinary life around you. Yes, this is what I have experienced myself whenever I watch such kind of movies. Like there's a popular fiction, I watch movies because they are based on such novels. So whenever I watch such movies, I just get, absorbed into what is happening there on the screen, and I have no idea that what's happening around me. Why? Because that is so interesting, that is so attention taking, attention seeking thing. Like because it is something new, you just watch with admiration, wow, this is something amazing. So that is how you just like it, you watch it, you read it, and you have interest in it. Okay, so this is new characteristics, and this we need to understand as well. This popular fiction makes use of the literary formula, and what this formula is. Okay, first of all, I would like to explain this formula. Literary formula is the synthesis of a number of specific cultural conventions in a period of time. It talks about synthesis of a number of cultural conventions, all right, already existing traditions, values, and custom of the culture that you use in your literature, all right, in a period of time means that are practiced in a period of time. Formula fiction feels a strong need for escape and relaxation of readers. How? Formula fiction means the fiction which provide you some cultural site to have satisfaction. You find the same thing in your culture, and you can just relate yourself with that culture, all right. So it feels a strong need for escape and relaxation of readers. This is something you can relate, this is something you can imagine, the situation that you had once imagined, you relate yourself, you just want to escape. Okay, feels a strong need for escape and relaxation of readers. So readers can escape from the harsh reality of the life, and they can relax at the same time. Readers experience life, death, violence, and sex described in popular fiction in a manner that increases his sense of confidence and well ordered existence. Since it is majority of the work is related to your daily life, for example, because it is related to your culture, so you can relate yourself with it in a way much better as compared to the like pure literature. So they can experience life, they can experience death, they can experience violence, all right, in a manner that increases his sense of confidence and well ordered existence, which gives him self confidence. How? People feel alike, like this is what a life is, this is how you die, this is what death is, this is how you face violence and how you have to deal it. So this also teaches you because it is related to your own culture. Okay, next characteristics is the relationship between popular fiction and popular culture. So yes, there is a relationship between both. Popular culture is the television we watch. Okay, popular culture is the culture that is popular, and popular fiction is the literature that is popular. All right, this is what we call it them generally. Okay, particularly culture. Since our ancestors had been living in the subcontinent India, there was a mixed gatherings of like rituals, of practices of social institutions like marriage, like other, and still if we if we ponder about the way the marriages take place around us, so we will have an idea that this is something which is related to the culture of Indian people, all right. So we had some things, we had some cultures, we have some traditions, we have some value that had been copied from the Indian culture. Why? Because it was a popular culture at that time. People started following such culture, and which exists till date as well. So that was a popular culture. Now after this Turkish dramas, I guess that had been telecast on the television, and even the English movies that we had started watching. So there is a sense of change in our society on the cultural level. For instance, girls, they can wear jeans and top, all right. So they do not feel hesitant. Why? Because it has become a part of our culture as well. So this is how popular culture invades your culture, and then it becomes popular. Similarly, popular culture is the television we watch, like the dramas we watch, Turkish dramas, especially the movies we see. Previously, Indian movies were very popular here. The fast food, yes, we want to have food from the McDonald's, from the KFC. That is a fast food, so it has become part of the culture, and that is popular culture. Popular culture means the culture that is popular around many nations, around many continents. Okay, fast food or the slow food we eat, the clothes we wear, that I have given reference of the jeans, the music we sing and hear. Yes, the music, In fact, here in Pakistan, there are a lot of people who had a taste for pop music, particularly of Hollywood, Justin Bieber, all right, Rihanna, like these type of singers. They want to listen to them. Similarly, we like to listen the music, Indian music as well. The things we spend our money for example, for buying mobile phones, for laptops, having such brands which are internationally recognized, having a great value, our attitude toward life, how we see life, how we take life, so that is also determined, that is also defined by popular culture. It is the whole society we live in it, that which may or may not be distributed by the mass media. It is virtually our whole world. It is not distributed by the mass media only, may or may not. For example, now this is the time of social media, so people want to know about the things through social media as well, and it is virtually our whole world, and it takes into its rim the whole world, um, something that is popular around the world. This is what we call popular culture. Yes, there is relationship, and on the basis of such popular culture, the popular fiction is created, is written. All right. Culture is a source for convention as well as is the background based on which the mutual understanding between a writer and his audiences occurs. What happens is culture is such source of conventions, and it provides a background on the basis of which there is a mutual understanding between a writer and his audience. All right. So means such things are presented in popular fiction which are a part of popular culture, so that is why it became becomes easy for the audiences to consume such culture. Fleming's James Bond, yes, you might have watched the movies of James Bond. Okay, Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. It is a detective series, and in which there is a detective, and you might have watched it. So that is a part of popular culture, because when with the increase in the ratio of the crime, so such type of stories became popular. Okay, recently Rowling's Harry Potter could be taken as examples illustrating influences of fictional characters on culture. So they also represent how such fictional characters have impact on the culture. For example, Harry Potter. So many of us had been growing up fascinating, having a Harry Potter type characteristics, qualities, have such powers in our hand. So we had grown up fascinating such things. So this is how the popular culture had influence on the popular fiction had influence on the culture, and the vice versa. For instance, Gelder observes the phenomena of Harry Potter and ascertains that Harry Potter has spread far beyond the novels themselves, because there's a movie on it, many people idealize him as well, and there's a total sales that had reached around 250 million across 200 countries, with the novels translated into 60 languages including Latin and Welsh. So there had been 250 million copies that had been sold around the world in 200 countries, and this novel had been translated into 60 different languages. So this is how you get to know this is what is the popularity of Harry Potter. The first Harry Potter film adaptation by Warner Bros. Became at the time the second highest grossing film in history, beaten only by James Cameron's The Titanic. So it was the only movie which became second highest grossing film after Titanic. So it is such a huge popularity of Harry Potter movie. A huge amount of media spin-offs and merchandising help to keep Harry Potter at the center of global cultural interest. So it happens, yes. There are a lot of forces, there are a lot of people, you can say, behind the success of a project, behind the popularity of some kind of phenomena or a culture or idea that is a part of culture. So it happened, yes. There were merchandising that helped the popularity of Harry Potter. Discovering such powerful influence of this phenomena, Gelder concludes that the Harry Potter phenomena has indeed rebranded and re-globalized Britain presenting to the world a country confident in its past but trying harder than usual to work out the possibilities for the future. So this is what the concept of Harry Potter had been reglobalized, had been spread across the world, and it was done intentionally. Why? Because they wanted it to be acclaimed and known across the world, because of they wanted to have wider opportunities for the future. They did not want to restrict the world to the conventions, that they wanted to open more arenas of life, more opportunities of life to the people. That is why it was intentional, according to Gel. Apparently, when a formula is widely successful, it has special appeal and becomes significant to the society. The process through which a formula develops and become a pattern of culture could be named cultural evolution. Yes, when a formula, when something to which people can relate, it has become successful, so it becomes significant for the society, and the process through which this formula develops, it is known as cultural evolution. So this is how the culture evolves, by adding new things into it, by bringing innovations. Yes, another head of our discussion is literary fiction versus popular fiction. Okay, here are features of literary fiction, and there's a comparison that is being made for you between the literary fiction and popular fiction. Its definition, we will discuss its definition first. A literary work written for aesthetic pleasure is called literary fiction. All right, and popular fiction is a kind of industrial practice. Industrial practice means which is done for the masses, which is done for the common people. Literature has tangled plots and intense formal artistry, means its plots are tangled, there are a lot of characters, there are a lot of happening that are taking place in the literature. While on the other hand, it has simple plot. There is only one character around which the whole story revolves. Either he is a protagonist or he is an antagonist. All right, and around which the whole story revolves, and he carries on the action. Language, in literary fiction, language is formal or literary language, like it is highly formal, having specific word choices, structures, while in popular fiction the language is simple or colloquial, means language of daily use is there. All right, so if we consider like owners of the works, they are authors. Here in literary fiction, they are called the authors, means the one who produces or creates a work of literature is known as author, while on the other hand, in popular fiction, they are called as writers. Yes, goals. Literature fiction's primary goal is the self-expression of an author. It is just, you just like the writer expresses himself or herself in literary fiction, while the primary focus of popular fiction is its reader. So they keep in mind the readers and then they write the fiction. For instance, if they are writing it for the children, for the kids, so they will have such characters in the story who are kids. All right, similarly for the youngsters, adults, and old age citizens. Genres. In literary fiction, we have poetry, novel, and drama as a form of genre, while in popular fiction we have mystery, fantasy, and historical fiction. Examples of literary fiction is that Ode on a Grecian Urn, that is by Keats, The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot, and Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. Yet Sherlock Holmes and Harry Potter are examples of popular fiction. Okay, so I would like to conclude this topic by saying that popular fiction includes those writings which are intended for the masses and those that find favor with large audiences. All right, it can be distinguished from artistic literature in that it is designed primarily to entertain. Popular fiction, unlike high literature, generally does not seek a high degree of formal beauty or subtlety and is not intended to endure. So there is no degree of formal beauty, like they do not follow the structures and the conventions. Basically, these popular fiction literary conventions are not followed in popular fiction. They just talk about the life in the real sense. All right, and they also add something from themselves. So that is all for today, and I hope you have understood the topic. and we'll continue this topic. Okay, we'll continue like this subject in the next lecture as well. So that's all for today.